I'm Jason Eakers. Welcome back to Rocky Knob Farm and our YouTube channel. Today I want to talk to you about soil health. And in this video, I'm going to show you different things that you can do to find out what nutrients you might add to your soil and what your pH is. So we'll start out with soil sample. I'll show you later how to take a soil sample. And I want you to know you start out always, you do a 6-inch sample. You don't want to get the dirt right on top of the ground and you don't want to go too deep. So 6 inches is a good way to start, and it gives you a more accurate reading on what nutrients that you have or what you are lacking. When you get your soil sample out, you want to clean all the rocks, debris, and the roots out of your sample. Mix it all up. And take you a couple samples of the area you're going to do, and that'll give you a better range overall what you have. Mix it up, put it in a Ziploc bag, and put your name, your address, your email address, and description. Also, if you have more than one place, you would want to put, for your own good, which garden it is. Do at least one sample a year. That's minimum. You can do 2 or 3. Fall, winter, summer, or just do one in the fall and you'll know what you need to add for the next year. So what is soil pH? Soil pH is a measure of the acidity or basicity of the soil. Why is it important to the farmer to know your pH? Well, it can't be too low and it can't be too high. It's almost like blood pressure. You can't survive if your blood pressure bottoms out, and you can't live if it's too high. So I like to explain it that way. But like I said, you want to do the soil sample because you want to know your deficiencies, your fertility, and your pH. And when you get your soil sample together, you can send it for free. You pay the shipping, but you can send it to the West Virginia University lab, and they will show you what you need to add, what plants you're growing. You want to tell them what plants you're growing, that way they know what to tell you to add for the best success. So here we have a soil pH scale. And a soil pH scale runs from 0 to 14. And if you look right here, this is 6.5 to 7.5. This is ideal where you want your soil to be. So 7 would be neutral, neither acidic or basidic, because 7 is ideal, and if I could give you a table, it would be like water. 0 being the highest acid would be actually like battery acid. So let's say that you have low pH on your soil test. You would add lime. Agriculture lime would help bring that pH up into this range. If you take a soil sample and it's too high, then you would use sulfur. Sulfur added would lower it. And that would, depending on your square footage, if you send that sample to WVU like I was talking about, have it truly analyzed and give them the square footage, they will tell you how much to add to your garden. So you wonder what kind of soil that you actually have. Is it mostly sand? Is it clay? Is it silt? Well, here's a little demonstration on how you can tell what you have. So we got us a sample out of our field, and you put it in a jar, and we're going to take a little bit of water, and we're going to put it in here. So we filled this jar up with some water, and we've left a little airspace here. But after you fill it full of water, you want to shake it up really well. And what we're going to do here is, this is a little demonstration on how we can find out what we have the most of and what kind of dirt we have, whether it be fit for gardening or what we need to add to it. So I wanted to show you a quick way that you can get a reading on your pH in your soil. Now, to be honest with you, this is not going to be near as accurate as if you take a soil sample and you send it and have it analyzed. But the main thing you need to remember is when you get one of these, they give you a little pad, and it's not a real good way of doing it. So I always use sandpaper, and I usually rub this sandpaper up and down this a little bit, and before I do my sample. And it's a real simple way of doing it. These meters are relatively cheap, but relatively cheap, you don't get near the accuracy than you would if you sent it to a soil lab. So you want to place this down into the ground, and as you can see, my pH is showing about a 7.5, and that's a good reading, especially for your lawn. So I wanted to show you how to do a soil sample. I have a probe here, which is actually made for doing soil samples. Now you don't have to have this, but it makes it a little bit easier if you're going to do a lot of soil sampling, which I do. But you can do it with a shovel. But remember that 6 inches that I was talking about? You can actually mark your shovel or mark this and try to get as close as you can to the 6-inch mark. So what I do is I put my foot on this, and as you can see, this dirt, you can see how the color, the topsoil, and then you can see this ain't so much of a dirt. But I'm using this in the yard. I'm not going to use this for gardening, but you can still do the sample. And what I would say is take that 6 inches, put it in a bowl like this, and go at a different spot in the yard and pull you another sample. And then when you get that sample together, you want to mix it all up, and there's where your baggie comes in, and then put it in the baggie. Remember, you don't need a whole lot of soil. The more soil that you put in here to ship, the more money it will cost you.
So the numbers on a fertilizer bag is the NPK table. That represents nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium.
So we're 24 hours later. I like to let it set for 24 hours. And I don't know how well you're going to see with the camera, but if you come in here, you can see that the sand first separates about in here. And then our second layer, which would be silt, would be about right here. And our clay comes up to here. And what we're going to do is we're going to measure. The best way to do it is with millimeters. And we're going to measure this and see what we get. So sand is the heaviest, and it settles out first. That's why that it's always on the bottom. And then silt would be the second. And then clay always really is what takes the longest to settle out. So I've got a little table here, and we're going to measure the sand, the silt, and the clay. And we're going to go from line to line to line. So our first measurement in millimeters, and you got to on my particular ruler, it's in centimeters, so we have to convert it. And we ended up with 30 millimeters. And then you measure from here to the second line, and we come up for silt with 20 millimeters. And then from here to here, and you always round up for gardening, it's going to be close enough, is 28. And you add these three together, and you come up with a total number of 78 millimeters. So with our total soil, sand, silt, and clay, we come up with a total of 78 millimeters. So the math would be 30 divided by 78 times 100 equals 38%. You take the 20 divided by 78, our total number, times 100, and we come up with 26%.
take your clay, 28 divided by 78 times 100, and you come up with 36. So you add these three numbers together, and you've got your 100% for your soil. So with the math that we've already came up with, we've got sand, silt, and clay, and that equaled 100%. Now we can use this soil texture triangle to actually see what kind of dirt we have. If you just got dirt in your hand, you can look through it and you can see this and see that, but you really can't tell what you actually have. So this triangle is made to make this a little simpler. So first we'll go with clay, and you really only have to use two of these. I like to use clay and silt. And if you come up to 36% on this scale that runs 0 to 100, it would be about right here. And you want to make your line straight with the way these lines run, or this way, the way they run. And then you got silt, and you come over here to silt, and you come up to 26%. And that would be right about in here. And like I said, you want these lines to run about like the lines that's already printed. And you come this way. Now where these two lines cross at, that's the kind of soil you have. And in our case here, they cross right here. So that would be a clay loam. And that would be ideal for really gardening or your yard or anything else for that matter. So I hope you've learned something in this demonstration on how that you can find out what actual kind of soil you need and what nutrients you might need to add. Thanks for watching.